Cool. One, it's the June 28th blockchain meeting. Let's go ahead and proceed. As far as I can tell with mainnet, everything looks fine. We had another case where there were 3 chain tips at one point competing, but I guess that's a rare but otherwise okay thing to happen. No invalid blocks or anything like that, and just the usual small amount of flash blocks. Anyone else notice anything weird or interesting from the logs? Just what I like to hear. Nothing. Means everything's working. Same with testnet. Besides, I know that like, on Friday we noticed that there were a couple of IP addresses that were just really blasting the testnet miner with V2 info requests, and they've since been blocked, and the testnet sprung back to life immediately after they were blocked. So that's encouraging. I hope to have my PR ready by the end of today here with the testnet fixes that at least makes it so that V2 info no longer does any IO. So it should respond a lot faster. Perfect mitigate definitely make that faster. Yes, Jay Wiley.
I just want to be the
Jay Wiley, I see you have your
advocate.
hand raised.
Yes, let me stop video. Is that better? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you fine, Jay Wiley.
Okay.
I think Jude's breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was me.
Jude, you may want to turn your video off, see if that helps.
Can you hear me now?
It's not good.
I can hear all of you just fine.
Okay, that sounds a little better. So what I was going to say is I'm going to advocate here for one of our partners with the issues that I submitted for the testnet this past week. I just want to highlight that it is a blocker for them. So if we could push that along, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think I got everything wrapped up. I just have one issue I want to talk about on the board before I send the PR, because I'm not sure whether or not
Okay.
it's fixable.
Okay, I did invite them, but they couldn't make it today. So I expect them to come next time, possibly.
Okay, yeah, it should be ready for shipping with this next release.
As for what else is going on for the testnet, so we are looking at putting the RPC port. We're looking at mapping that onto port 80 and 443. That way, that would give us greater control over rate limiting on the V2 endpoint, as well as just rate limiting in general, instead of having to play whack-a-mole with these IP addresses. So it's working fine. We have sort of like a experimental candidate in testnet right now, or so I don't know if we wanted to have like a discussion here about how we felt about that, because that would essentially change how developers and third-party services interact with the RPC endpoint. They're all probably mapped right now to port 20443. And this would essentially change that to port 80 or 443, putting it over SSL. But the peer-to-peer port would remain on 20444. Yes, Jay Wiley.
I was going to say, this sounds like it should be an async discussion.
Yeah, like I just wanted to mention it here, but I don't know if others wanted to actually go deep into that.
Yeah, maybe I just open an issue and we can all follow up on that. Unless anyone has any objections.
Sounds good. I would not anticipate that you can use SSL. I guess is the only immediate feedback I have.
Yeah, I think we should just keep it at port 80, and I don't think there's much to discuss here besides just over communicating the change. Like, it's not like, I think in terms of like the decision of whether or not to do it, I think this is a Hero internal decision for the most part, how we want to expose the service, so we can tackle it internally. And in terms of communicating the change and giving people heads up, maybe this is the beginning of that, and we can follow up on how best to do that either.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. We can also always
on
do
to,
a
the board.
300 permanent redirect. Because that would help with anybody downstream that's like hard coded.
I think that only helps redirects URLs, not ports, I think.
And it's not going to work with peer stacks nodes either. I'm pretty sure they ignore redirects.
Yes, but any peer stack node is going to fetch the RPC port to use through the peer protocol anyways.
Yeah, it will. I see we got the first PR out for resetting testnet. I took a look at it. It's pretty much fine by me. It's just that the new testnet block has already passed, so we might want to pick a future one. Up to you guys, though.
Right, but we need to pick a block from the past, right? Because we need to fill the block hash and the timestamp.
That's right. It's really passed. It's passed by a few hundred blocks.
Yeah.
That's all. But again, like totally fine. You're right. It has to be in the past. I was just wondering if we can make it a little bit closer to now, but it's not a big deal. Greg, you want to talk about the status of the version guarding variables?
Yeah, I had a few PRs in there marked as draft. I don't know if that messes up the flow or anything, but yeah, this is like a version out there. I was kind of not really sure when to mail stuff or when to keep thinking about it, but there's kind of a prototype of it, and I guess I was gonna maybe ask Aaron about taking a preliminary look at it at some point. But yeah, basically, I have a version and just kind of wondering about when to get feedback versus like when to keep thinking about it myself.
So
yeah, so there's a few drafts here that are kind of like that.
Generally speaking, if you mark it as draft, no one's going to take a look at it unless you specifically ask them to.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, but then I guess it's showing up here on the board, right? So I don't know if that's distracting, but I have a few things that are actually out for review and then a few things that are still marked draft. So this one has a version that maybe works, but just kind of want to know more about like what I should test and stuff like that. So
well, again,
yeah,
is there anyone specific you wanted to look at right now?
Well, the ones that aren't marked draft are out for review, and then I think of all the different ones I'm working on, the one thing I'm not sure how to do is the get the block hash of an arbitrary burn chain block. So that's the only one I feel stuck on, but the rest are either kind of have a decent draft that maybe might need more tests, or they're not marked draft at all.
Cool. Yeah, so for stuff that you have marked as draft, if you have like an open question that you want people to answer, what I would say is just like tag them, just like leave a comment on the PR at messaging their GitHub account. And yeah, because like if you have a question on the version guarding variables one for me or something, like wondering whether or not there's enough tests, yeah, you can just tag me. I'll try to get to it.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I just made them PRs so that I
Cool.
could see the diffs and then like see what the tests were running. Not sure if there's a better way to do that, but I wasn't really sure if they were going to show up on the board here. I'm not sure if they're distracting on the board, but if not, that's kind of like been the workflow I've been using.
No, it's all good. I just want to make sure that until you mark them as non-draft status, unless you @message someone, people will just ignore it.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I guess I might. Yeah, I'll send some messages about them soon, today or something.
Sounds good. For the ones that are not in draft status, so I think we have I have feedback on this one. I think we need another person to take a look at this.
Okay.
Yeah, we need 2 reviewers for each merge. So I'll go ahead and just add the usual folks. Okay, let's take a look at that one. So, do we want to talk about budget review?
I didn't hear the question.
Is there anything specifically you want to talk about for the one?
No, I think for the ones that are in review, I don't have any additional questions. I guess at some point, like, yeah, the only one I'm stuck on is the block hash for the burn chain. I don't know if we want to talk about that now, or
Okay.
maybe I'll just catch up with someone later.
Let's do it async.
Yeah.
Do it on the issue, maybe. I haven't seen anyone leave any feedback
Yes.
besides the one comment on 1805. Is there a blocker for other people?
There's no blocker for me. It's just, yeah, it's a big PR that it scared me a little bit, but I'm planning on reviewing this and trying to clear some of the backlog of PR reviews today. So
Sounds good. How are we doing on the slice function, Ludo?
I think I received a bunch of feedbacks that I'll be addressing this week. Yeah.
Sounds good. I think that's it for in flight. How are we doing on this issue, Reed and Pavithra?
Yeah, this is coming along really well. We've scheduled a code review / kind of demo on Wednesday. I think a few people have already accepted that invite, but hopefully we can make that happen. Yeah, but let's see. Pavi, do you have any updates? I guess not. Yeah, that's really all I got. Not too much.
Oh,
else to
sorry,
say.
I didn't
Oh.
unmute myself. I was talking.
Okay.
I just added my video. Yeah, not much to add. Like, we're just hammering out like function by function. So yeah.
I think I mentioned this
Sounds good.
the last time we all met, but like it feels like we're about like 3/4 of the way done at this point. Yeah.
Sounds good. Just looking at the backlog right here, I think we fixed this already, right? This is a documentation issue with string ASCII and string UTF-8.
Yes, it's been merged. It's in develop, I think.
Okay.
So the actual documentation hasn't been updated yet. But whenever we do the release, the docs will update.
Cool. Close it then. New issues. I opened this one really recently. This is the one thing that I'm still waiting for feedback on for before I release my testnet fixes PR. The question I had, I think maybe for Aaron here, is if the node ends up in a state where it's downloaded and processed several reward cycles of sortitions without a POX anchor block, just because it hasn't, it got interrupted while processing stacks blocks. It seems that, and this could just be like a bug that I introduced, but it seems that end up in a the because sorry, am I through still, or am I still breaking up?
You've been breaking up on and off the whole time. I think this sounds a little subtle. So yeah, unless you suddenly became more clear, I think that we might have to talk about this async. Or
Okay,
in chat of some form.
I'll try to replicate it. What's up?
Yeah, we can either discuss this on the issue or in Discord or something.
Yeah, sounds good. It might not be fixable, or at least not easily fixable. Unable to generate the Docker build. It's a new issue from a third party.
I know this person, Jude. I worked with them on the Stacks local dev.
Oh, yeah?
repo. Yeah, 2740. I'll take a look at this. Maybe I'll know what he's talking about.
Okay, sign you.
Yeah, that's fine. You can sign me. I'll take a look and see what's happening.
Do you want to talk about this briefly, Marvin?
Hey there, sorry, you cut out. I just heard my name.
I think he's asking if you want to talk about this traits inside lists, tuples, optionals issue.
Sorry, I didn't get it at if Jude is still talking.
Hey, Jude, I think it might make sense for, somebody else to drive the board for a little bit.
Did you hear?
I think the answer is yes, people can hear me.
Yes, we
Okay,
can hear you.
all right.
Well, regarding that issue, I guess it's basically more of a question, why isn't it possible? I always kind of assumed it had something to do with analysis, but
Yes.
but why? Like where, like how does it break?
So the problem with basically storing the materialized trait or the implementer of a trait is that in analysis, you can't then know what the called contract is going to be by looking at a transaction. Like the contract would come along, it would read something from the database, which would tell it what the smart contract it's trying to invoke is. And then it would invoke that smart contract. And so you wouldn't be able to know before doing the data fetch what contract you're actually calling.
But don't you get that info if you have like a trait as a parameter in your public function? Like at that point, you already know for sure what you have.
No, you have the trait as a parameter, but not you don't know what contract you're invoking, right?
Right, but from that point, if at a later stage you save it, then you already know that it is a contract that implements the trait, right?
You know that it implements the trait, but you don't know what contract is being called. Like it's important to miners to be able to know which contract is actually being invoked. So like, let's say you're doing cost analysis statically, you wouldn't be able to do that if you were storing the contract that was being invoked.
Oh yeah, I see, right. It goes down the entire tree.
Right.
And that's the same issue for wrapping it in an optional or list or tuple.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with list, there's no way around it. But maybe I'm also wrong. I didn't actually test this on testnet, but in the RAPL, you can actually create these parameters where you have a trait definition in a tuple or a list. But there's just no way to actually call those functions.
Yeah, I think that's correct. That's like the type system will allow you to shove a trait parameter into these kinds of things, but then you can't really do anything with them once you've done that.
Right. But yeah, wouldn't we want to prevent that or
make it an illegal statement?
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah.
Is
Okay,
there
thank
a plan somewhere for guarding the analysis pass to apply that that restriction?
No, I don't think there's an issue for that yet, but we can kind of commandeer this one or create a new one for it.
I switched off of the 5G network at my house to the 2.4G. Am I still coming through better? Am I still coming through here?
You're coming through
Yep.
much better.
Okay, that was bizarre. Maybe someone else is using the 5G spectrum near where I am. So we're good on this then, Marvin?
Yeah, I just mainly wanted to understand, but of course it makes sense. You want to go down the whole call graph and then you can't do that if it's stored.
That's true. Okay, so maybe the issue here is just to update the parser so that you can't put a trait type parameter inside of a list or a tuple or anything.
I think that would help, yeah. Like I've just been repeating it with every call because I saw that was the only way, but I was just kind of wondering like, oh, wouldn't it be great if you could just pass them in a list? It would solve a lot of issues. But it's not a real issue. You just need to introduce an extra parameter or something. So it was just for understanding.
Okay. Moving on to this issue here. This is fixed in the PR. I'm getting ready. The V2 info RPC endpoint does at least one MARF read as well as a couple other database reads, and it doesn't really need to. So I'm going to making it so that the all the information you would need to construct a V2 info response will just be cached automatically. In fact, I think we already do. We're just not making good, effective use of it. So that will make the V2 info queries a lot more responsive, especially under load. We discovered this issue recently. The code that causes the Stacks 2.0 chain to die at Bitcoin block 700,000 actually won't get executed. In issue 2507 from way back, we discovered that is mainnet here is actually written wrong. It uses the wrong values to compare the. It uses the network ID to try to figure out if it's mainnet, but that's not reliable in the burn chain. So this always turns false on mainnet. Oops. So the issue of making it so we can vote to stop the chain per the discussion on the repo is all the more pertinent as a result. Just moving on quickly to this one. I'm not sure I'm going to get to this in this release, but I'm just leaving it here for reference. The blocksinv and the poxinv message types, they can largely be pre-cached or pre-generated on a every time you store a new block, you can just pre-calculate one of these things. Reason being is that despite having the block hash cache, we still do a lot of IO to calculate these messages. And they're one of the most common messages exchanged by nodes, I've noticed. If we can make it so that these cost 0 IO on the happy path, I think our nodes will be a lot more responsive and as a result, a lot faster at doing things like propagating blocks and using less CPU and IO ops. Right here in the initial block download, we want to make it so that the block downloader and the block inventory state machine don't waste a lot of time scanning the whole state of the blockchain to find only that they have to go download blocks to the chain tip. So instead, we're just, what will happen in this new PR, and this is also talked about here for the inventory state machine, when we're bootstrapping, we'll only look at the last few reward cycles worth of data before proceeding to download the next one. And when we're bootstrapping, we know exactly which reward cycle to start scanning from because the bootstrap node we talk to will tell us when we diverge. And that is the reward cycle at which we should start scanning instead of starting from 0 each time. This, I think, was causing some problems that Jay Wiley had brought up. whereby the node would get slower as it had more and more reward cycles to process.
Just real quick, is there an ETA when that PR might be ready for testing?
Today.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you.
And this brings us down to this last issue here, slow failed syncing with testnet, which all these previous issues on PGP cover.
Can we move all of these to in progress, Jude, since you are working on PR for that?
Yes, we can. Well, technically, this is in progress, but it's a separate PR. Oops. And sorry, it's going to stay there for now. So we go here. Damn it, GitHub, do what I want you to do.
And JWhile, if you're planning to take a look at 2740, the Docker build one, can you also just move that to the backlog or in progress if you're actually going to look at it?
Yeah, I'll take a look and I'll see what he's asking for in there.
Okay.
All right, I'll just put it over here. All right, cool. That brings us to the end of the past week. Switching over to the 2.1 work stream. Have a bunch of stuff that's review in progress now, and that's awesome. I think this is now in progress. Same with this. Same with this. I think this is
Even
also...
the first one is in progress too, right? The accurate runtime costs.
Oh yeah, they're in progress. It's just the PR isn't open yet.
Oh, I see.
Not review in
Sorry.
progress.
Yeah. No, I misread the board.
Yeah, I misspoke too. I'm sorry. Anything new that goes to in progress now?
Not yet. I think that there's something that's in review in progress that is done.
Oh, cool. Which one?
Clarity VM versioning.
Clarity VM versioning. I'm not seeing it here. Oh, this
Right
one.
there. Yeah.
Pragmas are implemented?
No, there's a new issue for Pragmas, for the Pragma, but this issue was about VM versioning.
Got it. Should I put the Pragma in progress?
No, it's not being worked on yet. I'm still working on the stack extend and delegate stack extend.
I think this is now going to be in progress at least this week, right, Greg? Getting the burn chain block hash for any prior block hash.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the definition of in progress is. I mean, I've been thinking about it and like, yeah, we're talking about it now. So I guess it's in progress.
So by next week, you will have, by the next time we have this meeting, there will be code for this, or at least some code for this.
Should be.
Okay, so in progress. Anything else here? Technically, this is in progress. I have code already written for some of this.
Wait, so when something merges, do we put it in the done column or just close the issue? Because
either way.
Okay.
Do both. Let's go ahead and close this. Sound good, Aaron? Aaron, is this a closable issue now?
Yes.
Cool. Cool. My mouse is still the 4-way arrow here. Awesome. So as we take more of these on, we'll just move them into in progress. And I will do my best to get through all the reviews as well, the backlog of PRs. Anything for discussion for 2.1, for the current state of the network, stuff that's going on in Hero?
So release candidate tomorrow for the next release.
Think so.
Yeah.
And Greg, feel free to ping me when you're ready to deploy some tests.
Okay.
I'm your counterpart for this release cycle.
Okay, sounds good.
So just so you're aware, Greg, the one of the acceptance criteria, there's 2 acceptance criteria at least for doing a release. We have to make sure that the node will spin up from Genesis on mainnet, as well as it will spin up from Genesis on testnet. So when we're testing it first, we'll just be testing from the existing chain state. But before we actually merge to master, we'll need to verify that you can boot it up from the very beginning, and it should reach the same chain tip. And that test takes a few hours.
this would be a great thing to add to the release process. PR.
Excellent idea. Let's do that.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Aaron. Has any work been done on that documentation yet?
Yes, there's an open PR.
Excellent.
Yes, I think that right now, if you have details to add, just go ahead and just push commits to that branch. So it'll be a little bit of a collaborative PR, and then
Yeah, if you don't mind
whenever
just
we're all satisfied
sending
with
that
it.
branch over to me, I'll take a look later. I'd
Yep,
appreciate it.
sure.
Thanks.
All right, cool. Is there anything else to discuss?
Did we already go through the discussion topics?
Just 2 for today.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, did we already talk through them?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm at then. All right.
Nothing else? All right, we get half an hour back.
Cool.
All right, happy
Good
Monday.
Monday, everyone.
Sorry about the
Yes.
earlier camera and audio issues.